Ladies and gentlemen, the following episode is scheduled for one fall. Coming down the aisle are your hosts of In The Kliq, baby Huey and BrianTronic.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and that right over there is my tag team partner, BrianTronic. How's it going, man?
It's going great. We're back.
Yeah, man. Here we are back in the saddle for another episode of In The Kliq. And look at us, Brian. Finally, we got a new intro for the podcast. It's been long overdue. It's something I've been wanting to get done for ages, but just I feel like it's been one thing after another with work and just like different projects and, you know, one thing, like I said, one thing after another, but finally got a new intro done. What do you think, man?
I love it, man. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm making my way
well,
down the aisle.
As the announcer says, we're making our way down the aisle for a new episode of In The Kliq for one fall. That's for one episode. So that's the thing. When I had the chance to make a new intro, I had to quickly try to think of something to say. Like literally, my window of getting something done was kind of the quick turnaround. So I was like trying to quickly think of something to write. So luckily it just came out, maybe because I was under pressure, but it just flew out of me quickly. I typed it out, sent it over to our production guy to get it done. So thank you to everyone who got it done. Thank you again for everyone for tuning in for a brand new episode of In The Kliq. As always, remember to subscribe to us wherever you get your audio at. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We're also on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube page if you watch the videos. Oh, that's the other thing. Sorry for the delay on episodes over the last week and a half or so. I finally got new carpet in my home office here. So finally got that done. And now it's to work on the rest of the interior of this room. So eventually, I think between, the new backdrop and the new intro, I think we can maybe start doing video versions of the podcast soon. That's my goal. That's the next step, the next project to work on. But with that being said, please subscribe to us to our YouTube channel. If you watch the videos there, please give us a big thumbs up. And if you can, leave a comment. Or if you're listening to us on an Apple Podcast, go ahead and leave us a 5-star review and a 5-star rating, I should say. Five-time Booker T in honor of Booker T. But leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Leave a review there as well. That helps out. All that interaction helps with all the algorithms and stuff. I know there's a lot of great wrestling podcasts out there. So anything you could do to help us stand out versus everyone else, that would be much appreciated. But Brian, let's go ahead and jump into some clickbait news. So much to get into. Just when we thought the Vince McMahon stuff, like what we talked about a few weeks ago, that was a lot to break down with the breaking news there with the Wall Street Journal. But now the Wall Street Journal came out with another report, a second report. So the first one was a few weeks ago. It was announced he paid $3 million hush money to a former paralegal that he and John Laurinaitis allegedly had sexual relations with. Now, Wall Street Journal had just released a new article end of last week. This time around, he spent another $12 million in hush money. This time around to one particular wrestler who says, quote, she was coerced into giving him oral sex, and that she was demoted and released from the company in 2005 after refusing further sexual encounters. So McMahon bought her silence back in 2018 for a payout of $7.5 million. Let's see. The other report here says, meanwhile, in 2008, a former WWE contractor allegedly signed a NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and was paid approximately $1 million after she presented the company with unsolicited nude photos of Mr. McMahon. She reported receiving from him and alleged that he had sexually harassed her on the job. And according to also the Wall Street Journal's sources, another $1 million settlement in 2006 went to a former manager. And I think there's a manager, someone that works within WWE, not like an on-air manager or valet, just to separate the two, who had worked with Mr. McMahon for 10 years before he allegedly initiated a sexual relationship with her. So as you can see, as they kind of keep digging and investigating, you can see that there's been more NDA signed, more allegations, a lot of money he spent, like I said, combined $12 million in hush money to all these former people. So Man, Brian, what's kind of your initial thoughts on hearing that, the more they dig, the more they seem to find out about him. And this is just within the last, 2005 present, so in the last, 15, 17 years. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if they keep digging, maybe they'll find stuff from the 90s, maybe the 80s. I mean, I know, there's been reports and allegations in the past, but now it's like, it makes you wonder where there's smoke, there's fire. But yeah, kind of your initial thoughts on all this latest round of news.
Well, see, the way I look at it is like, a lot of this stuff that's come out, it's kind of, I mean, it sucks. It's like, oh man, like that's crazy that happened. But it's like, I mean, is anybody really surprised? I mean, a lot of people have had speculation. There's been things said here and there over the years about Vince specifically, but even just the environment, right? Like how it is to work there. The requirements, at least that there were to work under Vince McMahon or to work for Vince McMahon. We've heard lots of rumors and things over the years, but for it to come out and now you see and you're reading that there's been hush money paid and NDAs signed and to know that it's not just him, that it's John Laurinaitis is involved also, and it makes you wonder, okay, well, who else is involved? Like what? And then it makes you think, what's next? Like what happens to Vince now? Like what? Oh, and I got my son chiming in. He's not very happy about this news either. He's not very happy about this. But what happens to Vince? What happens to WWE?
Yeah, so that's the big question is what does happen next as far as is this finally what's going to break the camel's back and Vince McMahon can finally step down as CEO and officially go away? I mean, that's the big question here. And that's what a lot of people are trying to speculate, like what could happen next here? What are the repercussions from that? And that's the big question because, for Vince, it's like, okay, they're at a point where I think a lot of people online are like calling, for his head, for him to be removed from WWE. And now how's that process? It's going to be interesting because he stepped aside as CEO. Stephanie McMahon is running the company right now. He's still running creative. So he's still very much involved with, what the product that's seen on TV. Now, as far as will he finally step down as CEO? I think that only happens if he gets pressured enough. I mean, sure, could the board of directors vote him out? Yes, they can. But here's the issue is he has he controls who goes into who becomes board of directors. He controls that. So this group of people, the board of directors right now who vote him out, in the future, he can get rid of them and bring in a whole new group of board of directors that can then vote him back in. So he has such control over the company. So wait, so
he can get so if they vote him out, he can get rid of them and then hire
come back.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's I was Sean Ross Sapp and the guy who owns Fightful. They were breaking it down. They're explaining because he has 80% voting power, so he can vote in which board of directors are on the board, which people. So this current group of board of directors, sure, they can vote him out, but then he can get payback and have a new group of board of directors come in and vote him back in. So that's why it's the true way for him to step down is he needs to be the one to step down and agree, I'm no longer part of the company. Now, can the board of directors can say look, this is a bad image for the company. We need you to go away. Whether he agrees to or not, he's the boss. He's the number one in charge. So it's ultimately up to him if he wants to agree to that or not.
Well, and I wonder, like you said, if him having to be pushed out, I wonder if the board of directors that are in place, right, if they would even go as far as to do that, because they know, hey, if we push him out, he could just get back in
Yeah.
Either way, regardless.
So that's the thing. It's like, what other steps need to happen for him to officially go away? Now, with that being said, the next step would be, could people that are involved with WWE business partners, clients, TV can get involved. So could USA Network, or bigger, I guess would be what, Universal, who owns USA Network, could Fox, could they step in to like, hey, we don't want you running the company. We broadcast your TV show. We think you're a bad image. We don't want you associated with this product anymore that we broadcast. If you don't step away, then we're not going to renew our deal. Because, keep in mind, the TV deals expire in 2024, I believe. So there's going to be some big negotiations coming up in the near future. They can say, listen, we're not going to renew with you if you're still in charge, because you're such a bad image, and we don't want that associated with our TV product, our TV station. The other thing too is, could sponsors get involved and be like, hey, we don't want to be associated with you either. We're going to pull back. So, all the different advertisers that spend money with WWE and get their product on, they could be like, you know what? We don't want to do this anymore. So if the company starts losing money, then that can be like the board of directors and everyone be like, whoa, Vince, you got to go away. You're costing us way too much money. So, there are ways that this could affect long-term WWE in their business. Unless,
Universal or Fox, or, because that's a good point. But I was going to say, unless they don't look at this as something that is a bad rep on Vince. I mean, Vince already has a pretty bad rep, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you even look at the agreement and stuff that he had with in Saudi Arabia, with the Crown Jewel and all those events. He's already got a bad rep. People don't like him. So, does this really make his image any more worse than it already is? Especially like I just said, like, people have already had their opinions and thoughts on him, and things that he's done in the past with the company, with the pay-per-view, everything that's going on. I mean, you can go down, there's a whole list of things, not even involving any employees or any of the women, right? So it's so weird, it's strange, and I think, like, man, like, after the first report came out, he came out on SmackDown, and then I don't remember.
SmackDown first, and then Raw to introduce John Cena. Yeah,
and then he came out on Raw to say he was coming, and then he came out to introduce him, right?
Yeah.
So he's been on screen 3 times since the first report came out. Now the second, all these other reports are coming out, and I wonder if he'll try that again, maybe. I don't know. And it makes me think he did that to get that ovation, to get the cheers, to kind of be like, see, I'm not bad. Like, people still love me. Like, my image is good. Like, people want to see me. They want to see me. They want to see Vince McMahon.
Absolutely. And then also, I think it's just a way to tell everyone, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And then apparently the reports were, backstage reports are, he went backstage after that first segment on SmackDown and said, F them all. And so to everyone, like, accuse him of stuff. Like, so his mentality, he's like, I'm not going anywhere. F them all. It's going to be interesting seeing what happens from this. As far as, and there's so many different directions to dissect this and break this down, as far as, and I've seen a lot of different shows break this down, talk about it. Will this, like, who will take over? Will it be, everyone of course wants Triple H to run creative. It's like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Like, sure, Stephanie McMahon is CEO right now. Now, if Vince wants to officially step down, then keep Stephanie in charge. Let Nick Khan keep doing his thing from the business side of things. It seems like everyone's in place to keep WWE running as is. I think in a perfect world, people would love to see Stephanie just put her husband, Triple H, in charge of creative. Now, how's that really going to happen or not? Who knows? Because as we just said, I think Vince is still running the show more or less, even though on paper he stepped aside. He didn't step down, he stepped aside. So how do we know for the time being if he needs to step away even more so from creative? He could just put his boy Bruce Pritchard in charge of creative. So there's not a clear shot for like Triple H to start running creative next week. I mean, that's not going to happen anytime soon, as far as right now, as far as what's going on. So, I mean,
I feel like everyone wants the new blood, like WCW and Vince Russo. They want a new blood. They want everyone to come out into the ring. Everyone vacate all the titles, and we're going to start the new WWE.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think a lot of people are hoping, who are maybe frustrated or tired or burnt out of the creative direction WWE has gone on for, the last year, couple years, whatnot. Yeah. I think, everyone wants to see Vince out, and that way could get some sort of change and maybe freshen things up, and maybe WWE can have a different image, different product that maybe some people can get really excited for again. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's God, like I said, there's so much to talk about here. I know we're limited on time here, but I'm just saying, as far as I think people want to see Vince out, because obviously if these are all true, I mean, they are true. Obviously, if there's NDA signs, that means something happened, and money was paid. So something did happen. Mm-hmm. So I think people want to see him out because of, this behavior. It's not right. And then the other thing too, keep in mind why this is bad, is the term coercion, as far as he is forcing people to do stuff for him in order to get promoted or whatnot. And that's the thing that's tough too, is because you think about it, he's the number one guy. He's the number one, CEO. He's the booker. He can control people's fates. And so that's very much abuse of power, as far as making people to do things. Now, I know they say WWE, or he says, his lawyer said it's all been consensual. I mean, we don't know from the other side, the other party involved, if it's consensual or not. But as far as he can make people do things in order to get promoted, to get pushed, to get pay raises, that's an abuse of power, and that's bad PR. That does not look good. So that's, you can see a lot of steps here. All this involved is not good for the company. So
I don't think Snickers will like that.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens next. I mean, there's so, like I said, this is such a big topic, as far as, it's, will this change the culture down the road? Like, I mean, I would hope it would change the culture for the better. If they get a new power in there, you can improve things. I know there's been a lot of backstage reaction to this. And then even, I know, was it Meltzer talked to like one former writer, and like it was even a running joke back in the day when Vince would be running late to a meeting, and they all kind of knew something was up. It's like, oh, Vince is running late. I wonder what he's doing right now. So it's kind of been known for a long time. Something's been going on, and it just feels really dirty and yucky, and it's a really bad situation. And I hope something can happen from this for the better. I mean, I hopefully WWE. I think Vince, needs to step away. I think for the better of the company and for the image of the company. Mm-hmm. Now, whether he wants to or not, that's ultimately up to him. So we'll see what happens. And I think the Wall Street Journal, the writers of the articles, have teased there's even more dirt still to come. So a lot more to be discovered, man. I think a lot more reporting is going to happen. So this is just the beginning of, it's, I think, a big snowball effect. So much of the stuff that's going to happen. So I don't know, man. We'll wait and see.
Definitely
what happens. Man. All right, so let's talk some Raw. Let's talk some SmackDown, or better yet, let's go within the ropes and talk about what happened on TV the last couple episodes of WWE television. Let's talk about Raw. Last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. Brian, I don't know about you, but here we are. We're on the road to SummerSlam. It's a couple weeks away. It's the end of the month, which still feels weird. SummerSlam held the last weekend in July and not like the last weekend in August,
right?
Which still trips me out. But nonetheless, how are you feeling about the build to SummerSlam right now? I feel like we're a few weeks away, and I feel like it's a little underwhelming. I don't know. How about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it is underwhelming. And, I was thinking about this last night because I felt like Raw was a decent episode. The build has been exactly what every build I feel like this year has been, or even going back to last year, right?
Yeah.
it's just kind of been all over the place. Rematches, feuds that just, appear out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're having, you got two guys or two girls having a match on a pay-per-view. It's weird because, and we've talked about it before, about how the build to a lot of these pay-per-views this year, even going back last year, have been, poor. But then once the event comes, they're killing it, right? Like, I feel like everyone's really working hard. The matches are good. I don't think anyone really has had a bad thing to say. Well, not had a bad thing, but I don't think anyone can look at the pay-per-views this year and say, "Oh my God, this one was horrible," or "This one was horrible." They've been really decent.
Yeah, and that's something I think you and I have talked about before. Is sure, the build is frustrating or a little lackluster, but at the end of the day, the pay-per-views, or premium live events, have delivered, and there have been a lot of great matches, great moments, and a lot of entertaining stuff on those month-to-month shows. I think, for you and I, since we watch every week and, we do the podcast and, we try to focus on talking about every week, these reviews every week, we're investing so much of our personal time into watching these shows. We want like the top-notch entertainment. So it just really justifies our personal time that we give to watch these shows. But at the end of the day, if the pay-per-views deliver, that's ultimately what matters, I think, in many ways. I mean, you think about like how many big moments from WrestleMania or SummerSlams in the past, how many people criticize, oh yeah, but that show on episode of SmackDown 2 weeks before the 2006 SummerSlam was terrible build. Like, no one really, years down the road, never dwells on the week to week build up on the individual shows. It's all about the finished product, the finish line at the premium live events or the pay-per-views. Does that make sense as far as, when we talk about wrestling, our love for wrestling, we talk about specific moments, but no one really dwells on specific buildups. It's whether did the match that it built to deliver or not.
Right. And I think I'll even go as far as to say, back then when you had built, like, we see a lot of rematches, right? But there was a lot of rematches back then too. I mean, maybe not every week on TV. Yes. Right? Because we're seeing rematches on TV and at the pay-per-views or the premium live events. So it's a little bit of overkill. But I don't think anyone I just think that if they put a little bit more effort into the builds, then I think people would be more satisfied with it in the end. I think people are writing off the pay-per-views, 2-3 weeks ahead of the pay-per-view. We're predicting it. I see all the time on Twitter. It's like, oh, okay, all right, so that means so-and-so is going to fight. And so I think that's another thing that hurts them, is that it's so predictable. It's not always a bad thing to be predictable, right? Especially if it's something that you're looking forward to or you like. It's just like, oh yes, I really hope someone's, but like, Roman and Brock again is, I mean, that's just overkill. And I know that they're dealing with injuries and things like that, but they still have a lot of people, a lot of talent. You could have easily put someone in that place.
Well, speaking of talent, and we haven't a chance to actually talk about this. We didn't actually have time to do a Money in the Bank review, but I want to get your thoughts real quick on the thoughts of Austin Theory and Liv Morgan winning the Money in the Bank briefcases for their respective matches. What'd you think of either one of them winning those briefcases?
Well, the Liv Morgan, I think, finally, they give her something. I think that was a big win for her. In Theory, I didn't see that coming at all. I thought it was Seth Rollins' briefcase to win, but I'm glad that Theory was the one to win. I know that the way it happened was kind of weird, him losing the United States Championship, which was another shocker to me. I was like, what's going on? Like, come on. I thought he was going to be a lengthy United States champion. I was wrong, but then for them to, insert him into the Money in the Bank ladder match. We've seen people get added to ladder matches and, Money in the Bank. We've seen that happen so much. I think that's another thing that's overkill, is someone getting added to the match at the last minute after you've had this build and all these qualifying matches and things. So I think that's weird. But Theory, I think he's the right guy for it. I've been saying he's one of my favorites. He's got a lot of that Cena, Orton, just that ruthless aggression era, star power in him.
Yeah,
he's so young, and I don't know, man. He's one of my favorites. I really hope they don't drop the ball with him.
And that's the thing. So my initial reaction after Money in the Bank was, while maybe I was shocked that both of them did win, but I'm actually happy because they're both young talents, and this is a situation where it's like, okay, you can't argue against WWE saying they don't push young talent.
Yes,
they let two upcoming young stars from the roster win Money in the Bank. So you got to give them credit there. As far as on paper, great, two young talents instead of giving it to someone else who's already won a bunch of titles or has, everyone else in that Money in the Bank match, for the most part, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, have been successful. I mean, Drew, Seth, I'm trying to think who else was in the match, but you get what I'm saying as far as they put it on two young people who you could see could be people that they push for years to come. Now, Liv and, Theory, what their potential is, that's up for debate. But yeah, with Theory here, my only concern is I don't want them to rush him winning the titles or cashing in and winning. I'm worried the fans are going to turn on him because they feel like they're being forced that down our throats. That's my only concern for Theory. I want to see Theory. I do see Theory like what you said. I do see him as like the next John Cena if booked right and told interesting stories. My only concern is I think they need to do more character development with him. I think he's been very one-dimensional so far on the main roster. He's just been known as the heel selfie guy. He beats up someone, takes a selfie. Vince McMahon's protege, the next chosen one. So I feel like there's not a lot of layers to him, and I want to see more layers to his character. Like with John Cena. John Cena, when he first came out, he was very plain, but then he became the Dr. Thugonomics, started getting more character work done, and then started building up, memorable matches. So you got to build up to that. Theory, we saw he does have some great character work with The Way in NXT. So I think they got to kind of work on his character, give him some more layers, give him for a reason people to care about him more. So when he does cash in, if it is a successful cash in, people are really going to care and be, cheering or, celebrating one way or the other.
Well, and I feel like, I feel like we've been getting a little bit of that over the last week on Raw and SmackDown. I noticed that they've been giving him the mic. He comes out, he coming out, not necessarily teasing a cash-in, but coming out, basically letting Roman know, showing that fearless side, showing that he's not afraid. He is Mr. Money in the Bank. He's putting everyone on notice. Did the same thing with Brock Lesnar on Monday. And I feel like the approach that he has being Mr. Money in the Bank is sort of how it was for Seth Rollins in a way. Seth Rollins didn't really, he had sort of, obviously he was in the Shield. He had sort of a bit of a personality and reputation, right? But as a singles guy, he wouldn't really, other than on the independent scene, right? But like in WWE, he hadn't really planted his feet. Here he is, Mr. Money in the Bank. He's got, who was it? It was Noble and John
Morrison's old
Mercury. Yes, he had those guys with him, and he was working with the Authority and things like that. So it's not really the same, but it's kind of Theory being Vince's protege. He's on the opposition. He's the bad guy. Like people don't like when you align yourselves with the Authority, the boss. So. I kind of feel like it's very relatable in that sense, but I do get what you're saying. I think if you just give him a little more of something, I don't know, exactly what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's something. He needs that something to get over the edge, whether that's as a baby face where it looks like he's going to be a heel, right? But like, just give him a little something. And I don't know. I mean, at the end of Raw, I'm sure we'll get to it. But, hopefully they got other things lined up for him.
Exactly.
Than to just come out every week with the briefcase saying, I'm Mr. Money in the Bank,
Yeah, well, Liv Morgan, we'll get into more Liv Morgan in response to what happened on SmackDown, because I think that there are I'm kind of worried about a couple things there. But with Liv, I think it was very cool that she cashed in that night. She won her first title. Very exciting moment for her. Yeah. I know on paper it was a very heelish thing to do as far as being attacking someone when they're down to win the title. But ultimately, I mean, that's what the point of Money in the Bank is. It's being the capitalizing on an opportunity. Oh yeah,
the ultimate opportunist.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing with the Money in the Bank. You cash in when it's the best situation for you. And we saw Natty or Ronda hurt her knee in the match against Natty. Natty had the sharpshooter and submission hold, but Ronda was able to pick up the victory, still fight through it. And then even though she had the busted leg, Liv Morgan came running out a couple hours later after winning Money in the Bank, cashed in and kicked her in the knee and was able to pick up the victory. So very special moment for Liv Morgan, very happy. So I think even though she capitalized on someone else's injury, I think a lot of people are still happy for her. And that's the thing. It's like, regardless heel baby face, when you have the Money in the Bank briefcase, you got to use it when it's best for you. So I have no issue with Liv cashing in when she did. So with that being said, for Raw itself, so yeah, we see Brock Lesnar come out, talks to Paul Heyman, which I actually enjoyed the back and forth because they have so much history together, and it's rare we have to see the two of them just going back and forth. It's his former manager, Brock Lesnar's former manager, Paul Heyman, or advocate, I should say, but them talking. Brock, I know he's still the babyface cowboy look going. It was still, I think, really good. He holds his own just fine on the microphone, which is something we talked about in the past. It's like, wish he would have done more work on the microphone, but hey, we'll take it now what it is. Theory comes running out and talking about he plans on cashing it in against Brock. If Brock does win, they do have a little history there going back to Elimination Chamber in February when Brock threw Theory off the top of the Elimination Chamber cage. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that story beat from back in February. And this is coming off the heels of Theory also, remember, teasing on SmackDown last week where Roman's in the ring. Theory just comes out, runs around the ring, which I thought was kind of a weak segment, but at least the point being is just to show that it's just showing Roman like he's teasing the fact that, like, hey, you better be careful. I'll follow you. I'm gonna, I'm constantly in the background watching you. I'm being your shadow. So I get that story beat for Theory, just to let Roman know, hey man, I know you got Brock, up on the horizon, but I'm not too far behind. So I get that point, but just was kind of like, okay. But we see the Alpha Academy try to attack Brock, and Brock destroyed them. So I guess the segment worked as far as keeping Brock looking strong and looking like a threat. I guess for me also, it's I liked also the story beat on SmackDown where Paul Heyman told Roman he's concerned is like Brock, has accomplished so much and overcame so many odds. When he's back in the corner, he's his most dangerous. And you thought getting a 3 count on him was tough. Matt trying to get a 10 count now for last man standing, that's extremely difficult. So I like how Paul Heyman in his promos has really been putting over Brock still.
Yeah.
And then this segment taking Alpha Academy. So I like that they're really trying to reinforce that Brock is a threat, even though we've seen this matchup so many times. Are you cool with how they've been presenting Brock in this moment?
Yeah, and I feel like, I see a lot of people say, oh, we've seen this before. We have, but I feel like that, like you said, they do a really good job of bringing something fresh. Last man standing, right? Like that's. Have they been in a last man standing match before?
I don't think so. I was trying to think about that. I don't think so either. Okay.
Yeah. So that's already different, and to continue to, make both sides look threatening is very hard to do. But I think they're doing a really good job. Like even just you know, with Roman, right? Like with Paul Heyman, and I didn't know where it was going, but in the end, like he obviously made Roman feel like, like, hey, you got this, right? Like if there's anyone who can conquer the conqueror, or all the other good stuff that he says, is there anyone that can do it? It's Roman Reigns. And so I love the dynamic. I love the energy that both sides bring. I know it's really hard to do it. I feel like they've done every single thing possible. They've done face-offs, they've done brawls. He's beat up the Usos a bunch of times. They had incidents in the parking lot. It's so much, so much. So
another thing I want to ask you real quick. Judgment Day. I feel like it's kind of dead in the water now. I think a lot of people just given up on it. Why is that? Are people just thinking it's cheesy? Like what? Or are they just upset that Edge was taken out and removed so early on? Rhea Ripley's not able to compete right now, so it's just Finn Balor and Damian Priest working together. So it's they're not looking very effective. Is that the right analogy? Or trying to understand like what's wrong with them?
Yeah, I think Edge was the first thing, right? Because I think it happened a little premature. Not a lot of people we weren't expecting it, but I don't think everyone was ready for Edge to just be cut off from a group that he started. Even though it wasn't, I mean, I've seen some people online even say that Judgment Day wasn't really the best thing going on, right? Like it felt like it was missing something. I think maybe the rumors of, Rhea Ripley and I've seen rumors of Tommaso Ciampa. When me and you were in Dallas for WrestleMania, the rumors started then, So I think the fact that the rumor came out with Damian Priest, that killed any kind of hype that it potentially could have had, right? That spark, the lack of reaction when Damian Priest showed up at WrestleMania. That's one thing. Rhea Ripley, I think that was poor execution on WWE's part because they did nothing to make her look different. Like we knew that it was Rhea Ripley, aside from the rumors, the pants, the boots, the everything, right?
Yeah.
And then I think maybe the build to that 6-man tag wasn't that great either. But then the icing on the cake, I think, is kicking Edge out. You could have added Finn Balor in there, kept Edge in there, and it would have been great. I do think that Rhea Ripley being out hurts them also. It's kind of weird looking at Finn, and then it's just like now you don't really know who's the leader. I think that
because then Finn a couple weeks ago said we're all equals, and it's like, well, no, you kind of need a leader for a faction to kind of be the face of the faction. That's what Edge was. Like Edge is the veteran, and he's bringing up this young talent to support him, like any good faction does. But now here, Finn Balor a couple weeks later is like, we're all equals here, and it's like, all right.
Nobody wants to see Finn Balor being equal.
No. So they've been on main event. They've been having matches with the Mysterios, and now it's playing out on Monday Night Raw. Finn Balor's telling Ray he's a bad father, all this stuff, and he's trying to recruit Dominik Mysterio. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's the right choice? You think Dominik needs to join Judgment Day? I mean, I think Dominik needs something. I feel like Dominik, a lot of people are just kind of tired with him and his character. There's nothing there. All he's known for is just being Rey Mysterio's son. There's nothing else there for him. I mean, I almost think like the Mysterios might need to break up. Let Dominik, go down his own path and, get some new character development out of him. Let Rey go back to being the ultimate underdog again. I feel like that's a split needs to happen, but is at the expense of with the use of the Judgment Day? I don't know. How are you thinking about that?
So I like it, the idea. I like it, but then I don't like it because I feel like
it's the Judgment Day and he already got such a bad rap. So Dominik, I'm sure Dominik's like, I don't know if I want to join this faction. You guys are not that great.
Right. And I don't think, I feel like they need a spark. Like they need something that'll send them over and make people go, okay, this is what Judgment Day is about. And again, like we said, I think the lack of leadership, right? Like I think them being all equals, it's not going to work. Like I thought the idea that I had prior to Edge getting kicked out was, okay, maybe Edge is gonna, recruit all these people, and then, eventually someone will take over, Damian Priest or Finn or whoever. But it happened early, and I was like, oh, okay, so Finn's the new leader. But then it's just like, oh wait, no, Finn's not the new leader. And then they're recruiting people. It's like, well, recruit why? Well,
that's the thing. They haven't recruited anyone new too. So it's like, is this thing gonna grow and keep become like a bigger faction? Right now it's just the two of them. They're just a tag team at this point. So
and then now when I see, you're right about the tag team part, but like now when I see like the graphics up on the screen, like I still think of Edge.
Yeah. I mean, they still use the Alter Bridge song.
Yeah.
And Edge uses Alter Bridge for his music. I mean, it's still very much attached to Edge, which, okay, by the way, on a side note, those like vignettes that have been airing, that's for Edge, right?
Oh, yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, it's so obvious at this, especially the new one. Like you saw the shadow, like that's Edge walking there. The Randy Orton shirt, the Mick Foley flannel, the Brood Cup, the previous vignette, it was Jeff Hardy's, arm band things, and I mean it's just like this is your life or this is your career for Edge. So I wonder what's this leading to. Is he gonna come back? Like what kind of new character is he gonna come back as? That's
maybe he'll be Odge. Maybe he'll join the Maximum Male Models.
That's I want to get into about SmackDown. So, all right, let's wrap up here through Raw. So, Becky Lynch also came out. She wants a Raw women's match at SummerSlam. She cost Bianca a loss, a count out loss to Carmella here. So it looks like it's going to be Bianca versus Becky at SummerSlam. I wonder, will the roles reverse and Bianca beat Becky in 26 seconds, like what happened to SummerSlam last year? So. I don't know. We'll see it. We'll see how this plays out here.
Yep.
And then let's see. What else from Raw? I mean, the main event here, we saw Bobby Lashley and Riddle team up against Seth Rollins in theory. Fun main event here. Great. But the big thing was we see Dolph Ziggler make his big return, and he super kicked Theory in the face and stood over him in the ring. So. Bobby Lashley and Riddle pick up the win over Seth Rollins in theory, but the big talking point is the return of Dolph Ziggler, and it looks like, I guess, a babyface wearing a suit, and he has his eyes on Theory here. So what do you think about that whole dynamic?
I thought when he came out, I thought he was going to say, you told Seth Rollins he had the greatest cash in, but my cash in was bad. I thought it was going to be something like that, or maybe. Okay. Or maybe he would align himself with Theory in some way to kind of I don't know, coach him, be on his side. I don't know, but I don't know what to think of it because
the only thing I could think of is Dolph's being brought back. He's a veteran. We know he's a great worker. I think he's going to, be given to Theory. They're going to have a little program. And I think the point being, we already know Theory's going to have the rematch against Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam for the U.S. title. So maybe after SummerSlam, the two of them will pick up from there. But I think the point being is just to give Theory some opponents to beat and add some credibility to Theory as a potential threat for whoever is WWE Undisputed Champion after SummerSlam. So
it would have been nice if it would have been nice if it was a feud for the United States Championship. I think that would have been cool, But,
exactly. So I guess
if I'm Dolph Ziggler, what am I fighting for?
Just to beat up Theory,
right? Why am I beating up Theory? Why?
I know. So that's gonna be interesting to see what Dolph Ziggler's motivation is. I'm sure we'll get that on next week's episode of Raw. It's what's his motivation for taking out Theory, coming back the way he is in a suit and stuff. So, I mean, that's yet to be seen what the whole point of this is. So, a lot of questions from Raw, and it's, we'll see how this plays out leading up to SummerSlam. Last thing we'll just touch on is just some of the highlights from SmackDown this past week. As we mentioned, Roman Reigns comes out. The thing is, did you hear that there was only 13 minutes of wrestling on SmackDown this week? It was a lot of talking and promos. Not a lot of wrestling happened here. So we have Roman Reigns cut a long promo. As I mentioned earlier, Theory comes out, runs around the ring just to let everyone know, hey, I'm here. I'm Money in the Bank winner. Roman, be careful. I like how Roman just told him, go away. Get out of here. I mean, at this moment, Theory does not seem like a legit threat against Roman Reigns as a cash-in, unless unless Theory, we haven't had it in a while, a failed cash in. Maybe Theory's going to be a failed cash in at some point. No. I don't know. Unless, maybe Theory, jumps in the main event at SummerSlam after both guys are knocked out and, takes out Brock and pins Brock, tries to insert himself like Seth Rollins did at WrestleMania 7 years ago. Just wants to insert himself, make it a triple threat, and capitalize on both guys' knockout from last man standing match to become champion. But I think that's a bad move. Everyone's going to hate him for it, and not in a good way.
We'll see. And I think that is true. But I also see this. That's like the double-edged sword for WWE, right? Like I think a moment like that, Theory coming down the aisle, Nissan Stadium would explode, the eruption, the fans would go crazy, right? But then once it's all over, I think everyone will sit back and think, "Oh well, how's it? Wow, that sucks. Like, how's this gonna work now? Or how is it? Why? Like, did they have to do that? Like, did it have to be true? Did you have to even bring back Brock to take the pin to someone like there? But then you got to think, if that does happen, that's a pretty big person to pin to become champion. And I don't know, man. And then you got to think if he does indeed cash in and it's successful and Brock takes the pin. I know we're thinking ahead, but like. I always think, what happens to Roman? Like, does that mean he's taking a break? Does that mean,
we'll see.
Mean, he's kind of taking half of a break since he's only on one show.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, we'll see how this goes. But I do want to touch on, so going back to Liv Morgan, Liv Morgan's getting an interview celebrating her big win. She's excited. I think it's great seeing Liv Morgan now move over to SmackDown. SmackDown just needed some more female competitors on the roster. I think she's going to be a breath of fresh air for that women's division, especially as a baby face. Natty interrupted her saying, the only reason you're champion is because I took out Ronda Rousey. So, and then Ronda comes out and Ronda and Natty have another match against each other and Ronda wins. Ultimately, I think is this building towards Ronda versus Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. Now, which actually was announced on SmackDown. That's right, that they are going to have a rematch there. I'm worried that Liv is going to drop the title and have like a very, very short reign. The only thing I could think of is unless Charlotte Flair makes a big return, interferes, costs Ronda the title, and then Ronda and Charlotte can have their own program not involving the title, versus Liv Morgan. Maybe Liv Morgan can then go off, be champion still. I don't know, but Brian, like for you, I'm just curious though, like what are you thinking could happen here? What's the best case scenario? Like I think I would love to see Liv Morgan get a clean victory over Ronda Rousey. I think you got a chance to build a new star who is SmackDown Women's Champion in Liv Morgan. I think she needs to start getting some big wins. In a perfect world, I want to see her get a clean victory over Ronda at SummerSlam. I think the next one will be a feud against Charlotte Flair and have her beat her cleanly. You got to start giving her some credible wins. Yeah. But I'm worried that they might give her a short title reign and just put the title back on Ronda so she can go against Charlotte again. So I don't know. What do you think about Liv Morgan's title reign?
Well, I'm worried too. I'm worried that they'll actually have Liv hold on to the championship and act like she's a threat to the Queen. Oh,
that's
City.
Right. I forgot. You're the biggest Charlotte Flair fan I know. So, yes. Okay, you are a little biased in that sense.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, I hope she beats Ronda, because I don't think Ronda was a very good champion. I don't know whose fault that is, but this go around, it just didn't work out. I think Liv Morgan breathes the fresh air that the SmackDown women's division needs. And I think to start off, if you want to have her beat a big name, if you want to start it off strong, Ronda Rousey's great. I think Ronda Rousey's kind of owed the championship match. I know I've seen some people online that were upset, like, oh, we're getting Ronda Liv. Well, Liv, she has to beat her. She's got to beat her. Straight up one-on-one, no cash-ins, no anything. Liv has to do that. She can't turn that down. She has to fight Ronda Rousey. So but yeah, it does make you think though, like, oh, is Is she just transitional? Is this just to get Ronda the championship? And then Charlotte comes back, and then Charlotte gets the championship, and now she's at the top again, which I would be perfectly fine with.
Of course you would. Of course. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I hope Liv Morgan, apparently reports are like she's getting a great reaction at the house shows recently. Her merch is doing well. So hopefully those are all signs that like, hey, keep investing in her for a while. Let her give like a lengthy title reign. And we'll see how, hopefully that's something, to the fans out there, please, keep supporting her if you want to have a lengthy title reign. The other thing I want to ask you, the Maximum Male Models served up their 2022 tennis collection. So we saw Max Dupree come out with Marseille and Mansour. Mansour. God, this was so funny. I mean, it was funny and cheesy all at the same time. I know a lot of people are hating this segment. And yes, I know it's ridiculous. It's over the top. But for me, when I see like this whole model thing, it just reminds me of Rick the Model Martel. Like that's how, maybe that's the old wrestling fan in me. Like I'm not hating on this as much as maybe some other people are. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up with Rick the Model Martel and, these cocky, beautiful heels. Yep. So, I mean, I know this is really extreme and definitely I see the cheesiness and all this, but we haven't seen him wrestle yet. So I think, maybe if there's elements of like I said, Rick the Model Martel, then I can kind of see what Vince is, or whoever came up with this idea is trying to come up with. I don't know. What do you think about the segment itself?
So I love the segment. The presentation I thought was great. And the only thing I can think of really is, okay, this is cool. Like it's a gimmick, something for them to do. Now, when they wrestle, that's really going to be, or if they wrestle, I hope they wrestle.
Yeah.
But you would think that they would wrestle now. But I think that that could be a great tag team. It's like Eminem meets Billy and Chuck almost, like
okay.
It's like a fusion of those two groups in a sense. So it works out. And Max Dupree,
I laughed at his microphone. He had the big MMM microphone, and you can see he was reading the notes.
Yes,
titillating your juices, wherever he said. It was like, and he repeated a couple of lines. So I like I said, I know it's cheesy, it's goofy, over the top, but like I said, I grew up in an era where Rick the Model Martel existed, so like I'm not gonna hate on this as hard as other people, and they could be a really fun heelish tag team. So
yeah, definitely,
we'll see. And like I said, we're big friends of Max Dupree, aka Eli Drake, aka LA Knight. So we'll see. The other thing I want to ask you, and everyone's talking about this, so Lacey Evans, I guess officially back to being a heel. She attacked Aaliyah. They were supposed to be a tag team together, but Lacey Evans, her music hit. She came out 3 times, not happy with the crowd response, kept coming out, demanding for a bigger response. Comes out in the ring, punches Aaliyah, and then calls out the crowd. Says I pour my heart out to you. You guys still boo me. Screw you. So what'd you think? I understand why Lacey Evans is a heel here. She pours her heart out on national TV. And the crowd did not respond to her. And I think Lacey Evans is a better heel anyway. I know a lot of people are frustrated. It's like, wait, she cut all these babyface promos and they just turn her heel again. I feel like this is perfect motivation for her to be a heel. What do you think of this whole thing?
I agree. I think it's perfect motivation. I also think that they were, for me at least, I feel like they were almost too late with it. I was expecting for the heel turn to happen maybe a few weeks after, when they were airing the vignettes and she came out and she was flexing and stuff. I feel like maybe that was the plan at first, but I remember they switched her to Raw and then they switched her back to SmackDown. Almost like they didn't really know when to pull the trigger. I thought it was scrapped. I was like, oh, okay, well, they're not going to do it. They've got her, pairing up with other baby faces and tag team matches and stuff. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess she's not going to be a heel, but she is now, and I think she does a better job of being a heel.
Yeah,
she's natural. She's got that Charlotte Flair thing about her. It's just natural. It's infectious. It's so easy to hate her, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, unfortunately, I think the crowd was not really responding to her that well as a potential baby face. It makes more sense. She's better as a heel. I mean, unfortunately, there are just some people are just better off heels than baby faces and vice versa. So this is a situation where I think it's all right. And I think a lot of people who are maybe being critical of like the back and forth, keep in mind, that's all like backstage rumors and reporting. If you just focus on what we saw on TV, just focus on what's on TV here. Don't rely on what was reported on websites and whatnot. On TV, she pours her heart out. Mostly on SmackDown. I know appeared a little bit on Raw, but now back on SmackDown's the focus, her show, or that's the show she's going to be on. She comes out, starts wrestling, and people are not responding to her. So I understand her heel motivation, like pissed off. Like, I pour my heart out. I'm wrestling in front of you guys, and you guys are not responding. And so it makes sense for her being a heel. So I get that. So
yeah, definitely.
From what was being presented on TV, and like I said, I think she's a better heel anyway. So we'll see how this goes. Real quick, I know we're running short on.
Quick, I want to say her being a heel, that's a perfect opponent for Liv going forward too.
Absolutely. Like Lacey Evans, they build her right. She could be maybe a champion material down the road. Maybe she could be like, let's say Liv beats Ronda, beats Charlotte, and the next programs with Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans could be the one that beat her, become champion, and then Lacey Evans could have some fresh opponents as champion, and you could have another
new babyface woman go after Lacey Evans, because I would like to think Lacey Evans is sort of like a vet now for WWE.
Exactly.
I know she took a lot of time off, but she's someone who's been there for a bit. So hey.
I'm glad you brought that up. No, thank you. Yeah, and then looks like Shinsuke is going to be taking on Gunther at SummerSlam. If I had to guess for the IC title, that's what it might be building towards. I like how Gunther turned down an open challenge. He's like, no, you got to earn. Have a match with me. You just can't come out here and challenge me.
Right.
So instead, when Shinsuke came out, he told Ludwig Kaiser to fight Shinsuke. Shinsuke beat him. Then Gunther was pissed at Ludwig and started chopping him as punishment. So poor his chest off. But anyway, I'm happy. I think that's a good, credible opponent for Gunther, who Shinsuke is a former IC champion himself. So I think that's a great opponent for Gunther to face. And, eventually I'm sure Gunther's going to win that battle and help solidify his IC title reign, or the beginning of it. Last thing, main event, was we saw Drew McIntyre defeat Butch after Sheamus was coughing. I like Sheamus. I just didn't like the idea he was faking having COVID. I feel like COVID is not something you really want to joke about on TV, that you may or may not have it and you're coughing in front of everyone. Come up with a different excuse. That's my only thing. But anyway, Drew McIntyre beat up Butch. The match was supposed to be Drew versus Sheamus. The winner faces the champion at Clash at the Castle. My guess is Drew's going to be the one. I mean, we know Drew's going to be the challenger. It just makes sense. He's been doing press for it overseas. He's called his shot a couple weeks ago. And this is, I think, the beginning of, while Brock and Roman is the main story right now for the title, I think on a separate storyline, a parallel storyline, building up Drew is really important right now. And I think this is the beginning of it. I don't know. How about you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, I've been wanting it to be Drew. I've been saying ever since they announced the Clash of the Castle, it's like, okay, that right there is Drew's big moment in front of a huge crowd. Whether he wins or loses the championship is one thing, but the opportunity to go out there and be in the main event for championship, in the UK, that's a big deal. He's been vouching for, he's been saying that he was going to do everything he can to bring a big show back to the UK. So that's really cool. The one thing that bothers me is, them making the number one contender match so early. Leaves question marks in the air. Like, okay, all right, Drew's the guy, but like, who's gonna be champion? Like, and then it kind of, it's
like 2 months away, right? It's in September.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, wait, who's gonna be champion? You're right. It is 2 months away. A lot can happen. I mean, is he going to go up against Roman? Is he going to go up against Brock? Will it be Theory? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Who's it going to be? And I guess the unpredictability of it is a good thing, right? But then you start thinking, maybe do they even know? Like, is it even
probably
planned?
not? Let's be honest. But I think the switcheroo of Sheamus backing out last minute, that's a way of stalling for like another week. So this is going to play out, I'm sure, for the next couple weeks. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we all know, I think Drew's going to be the official opponent in September. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, are they getting a little ahead of themselves here? It's like, let's get through Brock and Roman first before you start talking about the main event of a pay-per-view not till September. So you know what I mean? So all right, well, we'll see how it goes. Hey, a lot happened on Raw and SmackDown. So but yeah, no, it's good stuff. Like you said, I'm excited. SummerSlam's almost here, and it's gonna be exciting times, man. But
it feels so weird. Like, we were at SummerSlam last year. I'm like,
I know.
Oh my God. Like I'm like, it's only been a year. Like, I feel like it's been years since that happened.
I know. But I'm excited. See what happens, man, in Nashville this year for SummerSlam. I'm sure they're going to deliver. But yeah, it's exciting stuff, man. All right. Well, on that note, let's start wrapping things up. Brian, where can the Kliqsters find you online?
Kliqsters, you guys can find me at BrianTronic on Twitter and Instagram.
I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official, Twitter and Instagram at Baby Huey83. Like I said at the top of the show, follow us at In The Kliq on social media. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts at. If you follow us or subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, please leave us a thumbs up. And for everything else, you can email me inthekliq@gmail.com. And on that note, let's go home. And that's the bottom line, because Huey said so.